Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/PettyRevenge. In today's episode, coworker didn't like how my food smelled, so I cooked something stinkier. Scared my neighbor so badly being petty she called the cops. Again. Guilt tripped my in-laws after they forgot my wife's birthday. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Coworker didn't like how my food smelled, so I cooked something stinkier. Happened 8 or so years ago. I ate my lunch at my desk because I was pretty busy. It was ethnic, meaning rice and adobo, a kind of stew. We work in cubicles, and the woman in the cube next to me leans over and makes a dramatic gag. "What are you eating?" I'm pretty busy and I don't really like this person, so I just say my lunch. Well, it's disgusting, I shouldn't have to smell that. Eat in the kitchen. I replied with something along the lines of "let me finish it then, so it doesn't stink anymore." She stomps to HR to report me and get me to stop eating at my desk, but company culture means everyone does it. HR does it. My boss, the VP, does it. She herself does it, with food that smells just as much. Her demands are slapped down and she goes back to her desk fuming. Next day I have my wife cook me the most pungent, aromatic, and spiciest curry she knows how to cook, and let it sit there untouched for an hour to make sure the smell covers the entire section of the office. All she could do was glare and hold her breath. Delicious. One of my coworkers had the worst food. So bloody smelly. And she would bring in a freaking George Foreman grill to cook food. So I brought salmon and heated it up in the microwave. Ended that war right then and there. She never did that again. I see your salmon and raise you fish head curry. I had a superior do that for breakfast. He didn't bring it in again after the threat I made. If your food is loud or has a heavy odor, be respectful and eat in the break room. That applies to everyone. How is adobo smelly? OMG. Maybe I'm in the minority, but my neighbors are Middle Eastern. They cook curry in the kitchen they have in their garage with the doors wide open. It has me drooling. Scared my neighbor so badly being petty she called the cops. Again. Years ago when my wife and I first got married, we moved into a small 1BR apartment together. We found out later this particular unit has been vacant quite a while. The woman on the other side of our only shared wall was an elderly woman. She never spoke to us but was never overtly rude to us. Very quickly after moving in we received a notice someone has complained about excessive noise. Now we were young, but we never liked to throw parties at our own house we went out, so we had never even had people over at this point, so we were quite confused by this. We called the office and they told us not to worry too much about it, it must have been a misunderstanding. About a week later get a knock on our door. It's the police. We open the door to see what's up. They tell us a neighbor has called and complained we were being too loud. We were literally sitting in our living room watching TV. We showed the officers as much and they apologized and left. This happened several more times over the coming months. One time we came home from a movie to the cops knocking. We showed them our ticket stubs and opened the door to a dark and silent apartment. At this point the officers said, "Okay, we'll take care of this." I closed the door but stayed at the door and watched them walk towards my neighbor and knock on her door. I hear them telling her she is to stop calling them for nothing or there will be consequences. After seeing this, we now knew for sure who was calling. A few days later we were parking and saw her pull in right after us. My wife decided to try and talk to her finally and see if we could figure out the problem. My wife walked towards her car smiling, saying hello. This woman locked herself in her car and started crying. We left her be, obviously. My wife went straight to the office to speak to the staff about this issue. I went inside and waited at the peephole. Now this woman was very old and walked with a walker. I hear the outside door close, I wait a few seconds and she comes into view on my peephole. While she is walking by my door, I reach back and kick the door with all my might. She screams, lifting her walker into the air, and screams as she nearly sprints to her apartment. After a few minutes, I get out my vacuum and start running it as cover because I know what's coming. A few minutes later, sure enough, police are at my door. Lucky for me, it's the same cops as the last time. They knock a couple times and I shut off the vacuum and answer the door. They apologize for the intrusion, but they have to come and ask if I had struck my door while she was walking by? I was aghast at the accusation. I say, guys, come on, I would never. What kind of a childish monster would do that to an old woman? I don't know if they believed me or not, but they accepted the explanation. After this final straw, she was not allowed to renew her lease a few months later and was cited for improper use of 911, and we were granted an order of protection against her. Was I an asshole and super petty? Definitely. Do I regret it? Sometimes. Would I do it again? Absolutely. This old lady is proof of what happens to assholes who age. They become old assholes. Nicely played. I like this reply. Being old doesn't make you an asshole. Being an asshole makes you an asshole. You liar. You don't regret it at all. You're probably right, but I honestly do wish it didn't get to that point though. You were vacuuming. You had a perfect lie available. You had just vacuumed the front hall and accidentally hit the door. It probably made a noise on the other side, but it couldn't have been loud enough to sound like a kick. The cops seemed to buy it. I had a downstairs neighbor who always complained that we were so loud and we stomped our feet. I tried so hard. I put in thick rugs everywhere. He still complained. I leave home for work by 9 a.m. and the place is empty during the day, and most times eat out because I am shit at cooking. Go home basically to sleep. At one point he played the emotional card by saying we are so loud and his cats get scared. Felt really bad about that, TBH. Well, I soon realized that the apartment does not allow pets, so I asked the manager if pets are allowed and they said no. He left after a month. If you're breaking the rules, try to be nicer. Guilt-tripped my in-laws after they forgot my wife's birthday. Let me set the stage. A few years ago, I woke up the day after my wife's birthday with her in tears. I asked her what was wrong, and she told me not one of her 8 siblings or their spouses wished her happy birthday the day before. She makes an effort to call each of them on their birthdays or at least send them a quick happy birthday text. She didn't want anything beyond just a quick gesture to show that they still care. But none of them called or anything, and she kept saying how she feels so dumb for getting upset over something like this and asked me not to go after them, but they made her cry. Enter irritated husband, stage left. My revenge was simple and deliciously passive-aggressive. I am friends with most of her family on Facebook, so I went online and made a quick post that read something along the lines of, "A big thank you to all the family and friends who reached out to my wife yesterday. She deeply appreciates each message or phone call and really felt the love." Not an hour later, she received several texts and calls from her siblings and their spouses wishing her a belated birthday. She still get hurt, but said it had helped a little. And that is the story of my simple and petty revenge. I had a sibling call me on my birthday and asked me a bunch of questions about an upcoming trip we were going on and then hung up. He didn't realize it was my birthday until a few days later. When he was reminded by our sister, he did feel terrible and sent me a picture of him eating crow. I think it was chicken. I honestly thought it was funny. Sometimes we all get busy, and he had young kids at the time. I probably would have added the petty jab of, since so many close to her didn't bother, so they truly realized how bad they screwed up. I'm sure they all assumed their siblings or SOs did, so it wasn't a big deal that they forgot. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.